Hello, 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 and welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and I am your host. You are here on the marketplace. You can catch us on our TV network. I have a super amazing guest today, Miss Denise Smith, who's going to be talking about her business, her consulting business. And I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to her about some of her various best practices and big ideas, and looking forward to sharing some solutions with the small businesses that will be listening to us today. So, can you help me and join me in welcoming Denise? How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. We're having a little bit of air quality problems here in New York because of what's going on with the fires. But other than that, everything is pretty good. Everything is good here in the studio, and I'm just glad to have you on today. So welcome, welcome all the way from Atlanta.
Yes, I'm in Atlanta, calling in from the car because I was on camp pickup duty. So,
Ah,
sorry about that, but
real
we
life,
make
real
things work
life.
always. Yeah, that's what we do.
That's some
But
real
thanks
life
for
stuff.
having me.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. I'm super excited to have you on today. And those that are just listening, you can catch us on the radio at WXTX Bloomberg. You can catch us on Roku, on Fire TV, on Amazon. And today we're going to be talking to Denise about her consulting business. And so, Denise, just tell us how you got started. Like, tell us about your business, of course, but what is your secret sauce? Like, what's the magic? What makes
Wow. Yeah, what makes the magic? I think what makes the magic is all about how you choose to wake up every day. Like that's what
Yeah.
makes the magic. You can wake up what people would say on the wrong side of the bed, or you can choose, wake up feeling not so great, but choose to still be happy. And I think once you figure that out, and there's always peaks and valleys of that, that's kind of the secret sauce to life because that's what, gets me up and out of bed every day. So I've had a
Every
lot
day.
of peaks, but I've had a lot of valleys. So
So that's and that's
that's what it
and
is.
I'm glad you're sharing that this morning, today, this afternoon, because I had a couple of conversations with some small businesses just recently. Had one just before I jumped on air, and they were talking about just that, like, what keeps you moving forward. And so, that you're truly an inspiration to all of us. Tell us about your consulting business. Tell us how you even got started with it.
Yeah. So my consulting business. So I've always had a consulting business on the side. I started off or got into consulting about 2 years out of college when I realized that I no longer wanted to be a nanny or work as a sales agent at a apartment complex, and I just needed to be doing something else. I wanted to go back into. I had graduated with a chemistry degree, and some minors in biology and links to engineering. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to be in the laboratory all the time.
Right,
It just wasn't my thing. And so I was like, what can I do? I did the
right,
sales piece of it already. I nannied. So I had the empathy factor already, which, back then I didn't know it was that. But it was kind of like pulling the things that I love. And I got into working at a company called Quintiles Laboratories, got into doing some database configuration, and that was my in writing SQL queries.
Yep,
And that was my way into the technology world. Had some great Y2K projects, and I know people probably don't know what that is, but for those watching that wondering Y2K, like that's when we went from 1999 to 2000, and we thought the world was going to
it's gonna
break.
end,
Um,
right.
so, just
Prince made a whole song about it.
yes, they wrote a whole song about it. So I would just say, fast forward, got into technology and kind of moved my way around and started working on the consulting side and really loved it. And when 2008 came, I found myself without a job and I was, poking around trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I met a woman, believe it or not, on Craigslist who was looking for a consultant. And she had her own business called Plan B Consulting. So yes,
Oh,
Cherie Black, I'm raising out to you. And I just was so I admired how she ran the company, what she did with the company, how she allowed me to learn the different parts of the company and what we were doing, like from business development to getting the work and killing the work and
Right.
you negotiate because a lot of times we would get offered full-time positions and how do we go through that?
That's right.
Do we want the full-time position or do we want to be out here still trying to eat what we kill and make this business keep going?
That's right.
Eventually that wore down on me. And so I had a then at that time 5-year-old son. I had traveled all over. I lived in India, and I was like, I just need to be in one place with my son, who at this time is now moving into second grade. Where, yeah, I'm still gonna probably be traveling back and forth, but I just need to be where he's at. Like, I can't be
Right.
in New York and he's flying back and forth. So
Right.
finally made the decision to take a full-time position, left out of
Right.
consulting in 2011, came back to Atlanta, and um, started with stayed in the area of just product development. And so that's where my product eye came into play. And I started working with different product capabilities on getting things to be on a mobile device.
Oh, wow.
Back then,
Wow.
Nook, the Sony, all
Right.
these things, we were
Right.
taking medical records and digitizing them on mobile devices, for nurses, for doctors, for journals that they had out there, just for people to read a little bit easier.
Right, now imagine we can't imagine a world without having all that stuff on a mobile
Right.
device.
Right, so imagine that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was on the forefront of that. It was so fun. It was lots of, like, fun things to do, This is back in the day where we would be going through scans
Right.
and,
Right.
trying to figure out what could be posted so people could read, and you would see thumbs and fingers in the scans as we were it was just all kinds of fun stuff. So that, got into that and got a call from EY. They were putting together a mobile strategy for their internally for their employees, and they wanted somebody who had experience in this industry to come over and kind of help them with that. And
Right.
that's how I got to Ernst and Young, and the rest is pretty much history. Like I got there, I loved everything I did there. I got to work internationally. I worked with over 152 countries.
Right.
And they had 800 offices, and each one of those were a legal entity. And so I learned how that all worked when we merged and acquired, and worked on the mergers and acquisitions pieces of the puzzle as well. And so all of that knowledge just took me into this space of understanding private equity, venture capital, really understanding what makes a business work, really understanding what an entrepreneur really is and what you do.
Right.
And I had started my own consultancy, starting to talk to folks about just building better teams from a place of empathy, but really pulling out the best of everybody. And I had devised my own way to tell people's story. But
Right.
then I didn't really know that that's what I was doing. But
So let's pause for a minute because you're
yeah.
like glossing over all of this. Like it was like, oh yeah. So I went from having a job to starting this consulting firm to being in the forefront of digital technology. Kind of, and then so I want you to pause for a minute because I want our audience to kind of take it all in. Like you didn't hear it when I came on and when I first was talking to you. I said this girl is on fire. Like you literally just described it like it was just seamless and flawless. And like you said, there were some ups and there were some downs. But what I want the listening audience to do is to be able to take it all in. Like this
Yeah.
is really your life. But it's not just your life. Like this path that this journey that you're on, there's folks that are watching us today that are saying, wait a minute, hold on. Like, how do I do this? Wait, something you said is going to pique someone else. I always say without test, there's no testimony. Without mess, there's no message, right?
Right.
And so you're sharing your testimony, but I want you to be able to talk a little bit because you've already talked about tenacity, right? You talked about organization because you couldn't have done any of this without or being organized, right? You talked
Mhm.
about taking risks, like stepping out on faith to work in this for the Craigslist ad, Lord. Okay, so, I mean,
Yes.
you know,
Craigslist.
and then
Dating myself.
right,
Yes.
but no, I mean not just dating yourself, but actually a lived life. Like I just
Yeah.
want I want the entrepreneurs that are listening, because I always talk about these barriers, and you just described a whole lot of barriers that you just kind of took and kept moving and made them opportunities. Each barrier you went through, oh yeah, I lost my job, but then I gained this amazing experience with this technology, and then I did this. And so, what I want my listening audience to kind of really get from you, Denise, is this is a process. It did not happen overnight. It does not
Mhm.
happen overnight. It's not in a vacuum. It's so many things that are going on that makes you who you are today. But more importantly, now that you're going into a very specific field of work, when you start talking about investments, that's like a foreign language to some of the entrepreneurs that are on the line today. And so I don't want you to
Yeah.
just gloss over all of that experience in technology and a lived life to get to this part. And we're not kind of, really digging in a little bit to help those that are listening today understand the importance of their finances, understanding their picture. Know what your financial picture is, because before you get to the point of you wanting to invest, or Angel is investing, or anyone is even looking or thinking about that company, they have to look good on paper, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you have to have your financial house in order before you can even talk to Denise. Before Denise can even give you any consulting advice on your next steps. And so I just want to kind of pause there, because I want individuals to understand that this is a whole journey that you just described, and you described it pretty flawlessly. And just throwing in there that you have a child along this way, and you're going into second grade. Like, all of these things don't just happen,
No.
and that's why people believe that we're super women. They always
Right.
think that we have a S on our chest, because we're doing this thing called life, and most of it's
Mhm.
out of necessity. Most of
Yeah.
it, we look back and say, wait a minute now.
I know. I did a whole lot. No, it's so funny. I have, and thank you for that. I have those challenges have made me, and whatever you wanna call them, like those setbacks, whatever it may be, were making me stronger. I didn't know it
Yeah,
at the time. I was like,
that's
"Lord, I do not wanna move back in with my parents at 30." Like, my son is living in New Orleans with his dad, and I'm moving back in with my parents because I'm trying to figure out, like, where I'm gonna like, you just those are things that you just don't even really think about because you get through
right,
them because it just didn't I forgot about it, like,
right,
it was something that
right.
was temporary, but at the time, I did not think it was temporary. I didn't even know what I was gonna do. I just knew I could not be
Right.
there, and
That's
so
right.
Craigslist was the answer. Cherie Black with Plan B Consulting got me
That's
into
right.
New York, and
Right.
while in New York, I really understood the operations behind products, like, and, how
Wow.
you
Keep going.
actually
Stop right there. The what
right,
behind the product?
the
And
operations.
operations. There is a
Yes,
whole process that happens behind the product that folks don't just understand. They think that because they have a widget or a idea, that they can just bring it to bear and the world is going to open up. There's a whole operation behind that. And so that's really important for you to kind of really say, I know most people don't want to see how the sausage is made. I get it. But there is an operation behind how the sausage is made before you get to that sausage, right?
right,
So this
right.
is really important. And now you're going into something that people really understand, product, because we buy products every day, right? If it's a
Mhm,
product for our hair, we got
mhm.
we got products for our home, we got products for our cars. So there's products all over. And so there was a lot of noise. There's a
Yeah,
lot of noise. But you've mastered how to break through that noise and kind of get your voice heard through all of that. I'm ready. I got my pen ready. I'm ready to take my notes, because I know this is going to be phenomenal. Now, how do you how you do it? Like, what is something that you could say to our listening audience today to break through that noise? Because we got products, we got services, and the world is our oyster, so to speak. Like, you literally can sell to India now. You don't even gotta go, you gotta
yes.
take a ride there. You could just be up at the time that they're up, and place it in a good place, and it'll take off, right? Your money can make money for you in your sleep. How do you get to that part though? Like, how does
So
that operation behind the product work?
yeah, so I think that, for every founder out there, it is important for you to understand every role the C-suite plays. And when I say understand, I say, like, dive deep. Understand, like, financially, I get it. CFO, they do things with numbers, and you're like, "I don't." But you really do need to understand that bottom line. You really need to have a financial model in place where you can project where you'll be, where you can figure out what you're, have your head count always in there, where you're looking at all that stuff from the very beginning.
That's
And
right.
so a lot of what I have worked through and people that I partner with and work with center around how easily can you teach somebody how to understand their financials for their business, because that's
Hmm.
the number one thing for
Really?
me. And I know that that seems like, "Oh, okay." But it's
No.
I wanna hear how they teach to me how they do financials, and I have so many wonderful people. I recently have a woman that I love her dearly, and I won't shout her out because 'cause she'll probably be so embarrassed, but, she has given me a whole new lens on what it means to really understand your financials and how to catch the listening ear of an angel and a VC and private equity, like
Okay,
how to
there you
catch
go
them, like how
again.
to catch
You
them.
thrown it. You
Yes,
thrown around those things that my folks are like,
yes,
okay, Angel, what?
right,
Flying
right,
or landed? Like, and that. So
right.
talk to me about what the difference is between an angel investor, right? A venture capitalist, because folks, those to you are fluid terms. Like you're throwing them around, like
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
For folks that are listening today, they may not be clear on what that is because you know what? We never in my community, I can only speak for my community, I can't speak for yours. In my community, we didn't have too many angel or
Mm,
we didn't have any venture capitalists. We barely had
right.
any angels. And forget about family, friends and
Mhm.
family. We didn't have a friends and family
Right,
plan, right?
right.
So when you're talking about that, I need you to kind of be a little more specific about what it is.
Yeah.
So those that are listening to us today, angel investor. So this is something for consideration. And I always try to give the listening audience when we have someone on that's financial to talk about some of those products that exist that they wouldn't traditionally have access to, right? So I had
Mhm.
Amos on the show one day, and Amos Winbush, phenomenal person. Definitely need to make the connection for you guys. He
Yes.
actually created the technology to sync your phone and your computer together. But now he's a serialpreneur, right? He's off doing all these wonderful things. And every time I talk to him, he's on to a next venture. And I had to get him to explain that to the listening audience. Then I had Dr. Winslow Sargent, who used to be my boss when I was at SBA. And so, he worked in one of the technology firms, decided to start his business. I don't know about you, but for some reason, I'm going to say this on air and I'm probably going to regret it later because I've been 25 for 25 years.
Mhm.
But being 20, celebrating my 25th anniversary of my 25th birthday, right? What I realize is folks our age, our parents or our elders always said to us, go to school, get an education, and get
Mhm.
a job. They didn't mean start your business. They meant get a
Mm.
job. And to get a
Mhm.
job with benefits, right? And it usually was for me, it was you're gonna be a teacher, you're gonna be you're gonna work in government. Government was the best job that you could
Right,
get, right?
right. Mhm.
And you and I both know that is not all of our callings. All of us are not meant to go do those things. Some of us are, and some of us love it and we flourish in it, and some of us are not. So, with that in mind, just like that scenario, there are individuals that said to me one of their biggest barriers were their family members because they told them they were going to start this venture and they told them to get a real job. This was not a
Right,
real job for them, right?
right.
Now you're introducing us to a whole new concept. Not only
Yeah.
can I start my business, there's actually people out there, angel investors, venture capitalists, and others that will actually invest in my little business, my idea, my product. Talk to
Yeah.
me. Like, I mean, we see a little
Yes.
bit on Shark Tank,
So
but in real life.
yes, yeah. So where I learned, so this is, and then I'm saying this because I want people to draw back on experiences that they had a lot of times through what I have perfected when I'm mentoring folks is that I'm helping them pull out their transferable skills that they're hidden transferable skills that they don't really realize why they were doing something then. But when I explained it back to them, they're like, oh, I was in that department doing these because, oh, I was working with with corporate ventures. I was
Right,
scouting and,
right.
things that
You
they
don't even
just
know
didn't
what
know.
that. You're
So,
like, oh,
oh, like that's what it is. So the first thing first, like an angel. What defines an angel is an investor that's typically um, an individual who, by to be an accredited investor, there are a certain number of amount of cash or money that you need to have coming in, making personally
mhm,
to make you an accredited investor, angel investor, and um, typically it's around I think it's 300,000 per household or something. I always get the numbers wrong because they've been changing back and forth. But it's something where that starts, right?
Right.
And they have their own money who provides financial support to startups or early stage businesses, and it's their money. So because it's their money, those of us who are have done pretty well in our angel investments that we have made are usually pretty much empathetic folks who like to go out and really help that founder get to that next step. So it's usually something I'm investing in. My investment thesis, that's my investment thesis is I want to always be able to do something better for the greater good for people. Whatever I'm investing in, it has to be making somebody else better. It has to
Right.
help them in some kind of way.
Right.
Lots of angel investors have their thesis, their thing, the thing that tugs at their heart that they're willing to put their money in.
Hmm. That's
Now,
awesome.
a venture capitalist, they're a professional investor, but they manage a fund. And that fund, a lot of times, either they were, depending on where they are within their venture capitalist journey, they are usually the person that helps to raise the fund, go
Mhm.
out and get the money, and they take that money and they invest it. They get to choose with having there's a structure. There's people that go and look try to find these companies where they will provide money back to them, whether they're at early stage, meaning they have no revenue, but they have a solid idea and they just need some money to make that idea work and do what it
Wow.
does, right?
Okay.
Or, it's a high growth company and they've already seen some numbers. They need a little bit more cash to get to that next billion. And
Right.
so, they're getting them some money, right? That's
Next
just, I'm
billion.
just giving it in these terms. So like that's a venture capitalist. And they're typically involved in the strategic and decision making with the company, but then they usually sometimes will say you have to have a board, go find yourself a board so that they can govern you. So
Right.
like there's a lot of different things
Moving
that you
parts.
see
There's a
the
lot of
person.
different moving parts. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
But I
that's the
wanted
difference
to.
between angel and venture. And then there's other vehicles and ways that we could get money from capital from, private equity or from banks and things like that. But I'll stop
Okay,
there.
and this is awesome because I need my listening audience to kind of understand the landscape so they'll know that there is actually some things that they can do to position themselves, so to speak, so that they
Right.
can be in that space where an angel, if it's a of course a business that tugs after folks heart or whatever that thesis statement is going to be for that angel,
Hmm.
that they can actually put themselves in a space that they can actually receive some funding to be successful in what they're doing. And then a venture capitalist, the same thing with the board and all that good stuff. So this is great. I wanted you to
And
share a little.
VCs definitely have thesis. I highly recommend that companies go in and check what these venture capital funds are.
Understand what that is, right? To go,
Yeah.
you don't waste your
Hmm.
time if
Hmm.
that's not something that they're going to fund. You're absolutely right, and so that's a part of doing your research, though. Just like when you started your business and you had to do your market research to find out if this was something that you can actually do. And I always make my small businesses laugh when I say that if you're running a business and you're not making money, you're not running a business. That's just a
You,
hobby. You just got a
yes.
hobby.
You gotta it is exactly.
You just got to.
I think that's the biggest part. I feel like, with a product company, a lot of the work that I do is I go in with my DNS consulting. I go in and I work with companies that are already at 10 to 15 million in annual revenue. Some of them are at 500 million in annual revenue, and they're looking to have an interim CEO come in while they to evaluate if they have the right people in place for that next growth that they're about to get to, right? And
Right.
so what happens is when you bring in an interim CEO or CTO or CFO or whatnot,
Mhm.
you're really in there to see how people work, and there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and I like to
Right.
say we have the right way in doing it. From we lead with empathy, so it's a lot of just finding out what people want to do and putting them in the right places to make everything work so that the
Mhm.
company still continues to grow. So
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a great space to kind of leave it at. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we're
okay.
going to be right back. And thank you so much. We're going to come right back and talk some more with Denise. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Chipotle Mexican Grill is among the latest large companies to clamp down on remote work among corporate staffers. A source tells Bloomberg that the restaurant chain will require corporate staffers be on site 4 days a week. That's 1 day more than what it required since March. Reddit is cutting its workforce by about 5% and reducing its hiring plans as the online forum operator refocuses on future growth. A memo sent to staff from Reddit's CEO and viewed by Bloomberg News says the company is eliminating around 90 full-time roles. Stocks moved a bit higher in yesterday's trading on Wall Street. The S&P 500 rose 10 points. The Dow was up 10. The Nasdaq added 47. Topgolf Callaway Brands and Acushnet, which owns Titleist golf balls, rose on news that the PGA Tour and Saudi-backed Live Golf have agreed to join forces. And the stock futures this morning have been fluctuating in a narrow range. Gina Cervetti.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute.
With the Bloomberg Small Business Report, I'm John Tucker, brought to you by OmegaTaxCredit.com. Signed into law by former President Trump as part of the CARES Act in 2020, the ERC, the Employee Retention Credit, is a refundable credit meant to encourage small businesses to keep their workers on payroll during the COVID lockdowns. But the IRS quickly faced a pileup of hundreds of thousands of unprocessed claims, as well as the meteoric rise of scammers on social media and email and broadcast media encouraging businesses to claim tens of thousands of dollars per employee when they didn't qualify. ERC fraud became such a problem that this year the IRS put it on a dirty dozen list of tax scams and prioritized the credit as a red flag for audits. The IRS confirms to Bloomberg a recent report stating that the agency has opened 122 investigations totaling $1.2 billion in credit claims as of April 30th. That's the Bloomberg Small.
ICABA, ICABA, stands for the International Career and Business Alliance. And basically, it's really about building, activating relationships that grow wealth.
What is ACABA doing? ACABA is putting you in an environment where you can rub shoulders, you can actually talk to wealth creators, to entrepreneurs who may look like you, who may come from circumstances like you, who may come from an environment like your environment. And then once you go ahead and grab that baton, you might say, well, this is possible. This individual over here did it, and now I can do it. So ACABA is raising our level of vision, and they're doing a fantastic.
Today we're taking a little vacation on the west end of St. Croix, visiting a seaside restaurant called the Beachside Cafe here at Sandcastles on the Beach.
The atmosphere is just wonderful.
You just feel very welcome when you're here.
Hi!
I'd like to introduce Chris and Ted, who are the owners of Beachside Cafe and also Sandcastles on the Beach. This is amazing!
Thank you. Sandcastle on the Beach is quiet and friendly, relaxing.
I often entertain guests, and this is the one place I always try to bring people.
Tell us a little bit about the hotel.
Well, the hotel is a 25-room hotel. We have 10 different room types within that. We also have, of course, our greatest asset, the ocean out there, which our side of the island is very calm typically. So it's the best swimming beach and also great for snorkeling.
And just walking, doing a nice walking beach tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best beach access is right here, so we love them.
And we're also fortunate we have just up the way Sandy Point National Park, and then Frederickstead Town is just a mile away. Mm-hmm. And so we're really fortunate to be in this perfect spot.
So nice, so nice. used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dance Hall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Coaxum Report. We are powered by Callaloo Network. You're here at our TV network on the Marketplace, and you can catch us on Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Roku, and I encourage you to download the app, OurTV.network, and so you can get us every Wednesday at 2:30. This is Terry Coaxum. I'm your host, and I have a super amazing guest that's on with us today, Denise Smith. And Denise has kind of been glossing over everything, but when I say tenacious, she pivots. She's truly, she's truly an anomaly in this game, and she didn't even know it, right? So we're talking to her a little bit about her business. She talked to us kind of through how she got to where she is and in the financial space, and she was giving us a little bit of more information about what it means to be an angel, what it means to be a venture capitalist, and how you can position yourself if you're looking to receive some of that financial assistance from either of those vehicles. And there's tons of others out there. But she was really kind of giving us some highlights of what that would look like. And so I'm super excited about that. Because now that my listening audience, I like to come on, we talk about the barriers, how you got to where you are, right? But these best practices and big ideas are the highlights of the show because it makes individuals that are watching, and I told you, we're throughout all of the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, and of course, all the United States. There are individuals that are watching this show that I want them to get these nuggets from you. I want them to be able to understand if Denise did it, so can you. Yes. And I think one of the top things about this journey that you're on, journey doesn't have an age. It doesn't have an age limit, right? You know, you best set out plans. I said this, for those of us that are celebrating the 25th anniversary of their 25th birthday, there were some things that our parents or your caregivers said. You got to go to school. That's always everything, right? And then higher education is always a plus. And then they tell you got to get a real job, right? So you got to go work for government or one of the agencies that they believe will set you up for life. And then you get 25 years on and you realize not really what my passion is, right? So I'm happy to hear you say, listen, this happened to me on my journey and I lost my job, but I was able to pivot. I was able to take risks. I was able to step out on faith. And I think that is the super amazing testimony that I love for my guests to share with my listening audience, because I want them to understand that we got multimillionaires on this street, right? And I want them to go get their riches, like get their money off the table. You got money to go get. So don't be afraid to go get your money. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And so Denise, we're back and, we want to talk some more about these best practices. And we're going to get into some of these top ideas on, how your consulting firm is able to make an impact. And I love your thesis statement, right? You want to invest in people that are investing in others. Like you are giving them the leg up, so to speak, the financial leg up to be able to go and save the world before bedtime. And that in itself is to be commended, right? Because social work like that on that level, folks are like, I ain't get my money for that.
Right.
But you're actually seeking out business to invest in, to empower, to take it to the next level. And so I just want to appreciate you for doing that, and just want to talk a little bit more through your journey and some of these best practices that you were beginning to share when we went on commercial break.
Yeah, so, I believe that best practices, you build them up for yourself. Best
That's
practices
right.
for yourself.
You told
Everybody, if you're in this journey, there's best practices for everything out there. But for yourself, my own best practices, it all started with the very first time I traveled outside of the country to Jamaica.
no,
And I got
Jamaica,
to work.
Jamaica.
Yes, I love Jamaica. And I got to really work with the students there, younger children, kids, and just see, like, I saw the disparities of what we had here in the United States versus what was there in Jamaica, and just really wanted to be able to do more.
Right.
And that journey led me to being the first to raise my hand when they said, hey, we're sending teams over to India to live because we need to set up the operations center there. Who wants to go? And I was like, me, and I had a 3-year-old son. So going off and like doing these things and just being curious is the one thing that I consider as part of
Being
like
curious. I like that.
everything else. I just say be curious, always stay curious.
And I like when you say being curious, because one of the things that we outgrow is being curious, right? Because
Mhm.
I look at my 4-year-old and I think about all the things that he just goes into, like, just blinders. Like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna jump in order. Oh, I'm gonna
Mhm.
climb up on that. Oh, I'm gonna, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting there cringing like, no.
Right,
Right?
right. You're
But
like,
he's
please sit
curious.
down.
He's
Yes.
curious.
Be
It's
curious.
something that he just wants to seek out because it's different. It's new.
Mhm.
And so saying that about in the business realm, though, that kind of really makes me understand that you're also a creative mind, right?
Mhm.
Because that curiosity leads you to so many different things, and so many different journeys. And so if you guys are listening to us today and you're listening to Denise's testimony, I want you to understand that this is the power of your next, right?
Mhm.
Be curious, step out on faith, take
Yeah.
risks, right? And one of the things that, so my daughters are 27 and 33. My grandson is 12, and I'm raising my great nephew, right? When I tell people this and they laugh at me. I said, when I was raising my children, it was always like I thought I was going to ruin them for life. I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this.
Mhm.
Now the second time around, I'm like, yes, let's play in the puddles. Let's
Mhm.
roll in the grass. Yes,
Mhm.
all the things that I was like scared of doing because I thought I was going to get it wrong. There was no getting it wrong. Like,
There's no getting it wrong.
there's no
Yes.
blueprint to this parenting thing. And
Yes.
there's no blueprint to life, right? So all the things that, I heard one of my most powerful motivational speakers say, he said, people rush through life to get to death.
Yeah, it's like, there's no need to rush. Like,
You're
I have a
right.
21-year-old too. So my 21-year-old, that's the one who's been with me, weathered the storm of mommy traveling all the time.
Right.
And his dad is great, but his dad was a doctor, so he went the route that our parents said to
Right.
do,
There we
right?
go. Right.
But I was the one who was like, well, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna live in India. I know he's 3, that's fine. I would just do all the things that were outside of my parents' wildest
Right.
dreams. Like, they were like,
Right.
what is she?
They're
What is
like,
this
what are you
woman?
doing?
What is she gonna do next? So I think that just staying curious, and I mean, I stayed curious to the point of I went and taught English to students in Ecuador with my best
Oh,
friend. I don't know, like, it was before I got married in 2012, and it was just one of the most amazing things that I could have ever done, and that curiosity kept me wanting to be able to work globally and be at global companies and
right.
want to be working the global side of a company. And so that was what it was like for Ernst& Young and being at Ernst& Young.
Right.
I think that you can extrapolate from all your experiences, you can leverage from what you've been in, and you can definitely continue doing those things to build in, like what you were saying, like what is the blueprint, like
Right.
this
There is
is the blueprint, like it's
right.
yourself, it's the people.
Right.
And for my company and for DNS consulting, and then for all the people that I work with, I have a lot of clients that I work with fractionally as their CTO, like MPC consulting and things like that. To me, my gift to them is just the power of connections that I have to
Ah,
these incredible people
that's right.
that are going to change what you're thinking too.
That's right.
And that's all I can, that's all I can do. I can make.
But that's enough though. How about that?
Yes.
How about
Yeah.
that's enough?
It is enough.
Yeah, that's enough. And so it's really eye opening for me, because this isn't traditionally like my world, right? But just having this conversation with you, seeing your face light up about your consultancy and the individuals that you're working with excites me, because one of the things that I do is I connect people, because relationships matter, right? And so having us do this work that we do, and I always say, and people always go, here we go again. Now I want to die empty. Like, God has given me so many amazing experiences. I want to pour all of this into everybody I come in contact with, so that they can be empowered, so that they can do what they need to do, because I understand my definitive purpose in life is to empower and encourage other people. Period. Whatever role that is that God gives me, that's the role I'm going to play. But I like the fact that you're doing this so seamlessly, right? And you're doing with all these amazing people. You're making all these connections. You're making sure that they're in a space that they can do these great things, and saving the world before bedtime, all at the same time. And you're still being mommy, and you're still a mommy. You're still, you're still a teacher. You're still a counselor, because as long as you have children, you're going to be the counselor.
Mentoring, all those things. Yes.
You're going to be all of these things to them. And then you look back and you go, okay, I did pretty good.
I think I did that. I think everybody's okay. I think, probably like how you look at your older children versus, looking at your great nephew. Like, I just, sometimes you just have to not take yourself so seriously to really understand who you really are. And for me, it took some time. It took this last time getting laid off there's a woman that I met recently. I'm just enamored by her. Her name is Elena Robinson. She has her own company. And she said something in a speech that just resonated with me, but she was like, I said to myself that it would be the last time that I got laid off. Like, I would never be laid off again. And when she said that to me, I was like, I guess that's what I was going for. Like, I don't want to be laid off again. So I guess I need to do this.
I didn't like the way that felt. Right.
Yeah. I guess I could do this for myself. Right. So,
and not only can you do it for yourself, you should have been doing it for yourself in the beginning. But a lot of times, especially us, we get caught up in, this is security. And when it's no longer the security blanket that you thought it was, but you put so much time and energy in it, you step back and go, okay,
wait a minute. Yes, I can do this. I'm already doing this. I'm already doing that. Like, what am I talking about? And so, that imposter syndrome definitely weighs heavily when you feel like you failed, right? Or even when you haven't failed, but people are testing you. It definitely comes back in. But you just have to, if you are rooted and stop taking yourself as seriously, so you can see who you are.
Right. I like that you are sharing this, especially with the not taking yourself so seriously, being curious, right? So that's the root of how this started, being curious, not taking yourself so seriously, like not reading your own press release, right? I don't need to read my press release. I know what I'm capable of doing. So let's move this thing to the next level. But I want you to pause a little bit on imposter syndrome, because we all at some point, whether we admit it or not, feel like an imposter in whatever we're doing. It just is what it is. I don't know, I don't know what brings it on. Even some of us, and I myself included, I've had a whole conversation with my daughter. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't accomplish this, I didn't accomplish that. And she's like, so you're feeling unaccomplished? I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling unaccomplished. She's like, okay, so let's get this straight. Let me be clear about what you're saying. So you left home at 16 years old with a box of vanilla wafers and the clothes on your back. And you came to New York without a place to stay. You was homeless in 3 hours. And you went from working from Senator Chuck Schumer, who's not a majority leader, to the first black president of the United States. And you're the first one in your family to graduate from high school. And you're on a what? Make it make sense.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like...
Oh. Well, if you say it like that, I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just getting out of that mindset. I think that you just have to work on getting yourself out of that mindset, whether that is going to take a walk, whether that is joining a group where you can meet different people who are who could be similar or not. It's okay for them not to be similar to you. But just getting yourself out there to meet people. And I'm the introvert, so I get it. Like having to be extroverted at times wears me down. And people who know me know that if she's not answering you back, she's just refueling and she'll get back to you. I'm not gonna let 24 hours go by, but you might not get an answer right in 5 minutes. And it's only because I'm refueling. I have to stop for a moment just so that I can fill back in. Otherwise, I'm no good for anybody. So I think that, knowing who you are, understanding who you are, there's plenty of tests and things out there, but like you just really taking that to heart, not looking at it as like, why am I taking this assessment? But really diving deep into that assessment. Look back at some of your feedback. I mean, people used to say to me all the time, from the very first time, my very first manager, I can't wait to come work for you one day. Or I'll see you when you're back and your partner. Or I'll be back when I'm working for you because you're running the company. And I never ever saw myself that way. I used to be like, why did they say that? So strange, Even my website designer, she was like, I'll holler back at me when you're ready to start your company. She used to say it to me and I didn't understand it until now.
You're like,
Here we are. I'm like, oh,
okay.
you're right. Okay, everybody was subtly telling me, but it's not going to happen until you're ready.
That's
And when
right.
I was ready, I'm ready.
But here's the thing about that, and I'm going to go back to something else you just glossed over. Mental illness is real, and so we need to acknowledge it. It's okay not to be okay, and to acknowledge that you're not okay, and to seek what you need to be okay, including refueling yourself, right? Taking a step back, because guess what? We got the same 24 hours in the day, no matter how much money you make or don't make. You still got those same 24 hours, and you don't get to get them back. And more importantly, put your oxygen mask on first. Because you can't be no good to nobody else unless you're breathing.
Right. Unless you're breathing.
So you're like glossing all over all these.
I know mental health is a big. I feel like everybody should stop and take the break. Stop and take the break.
Refuel.
It's okay.
It's refuel.
Okay.
I mean,
just
it's
refuel.
important. And guess what? When you went back after the 24 hours or before, the world didn't fall apart. Imagine that.
Imagine that. And
answered 5 minutes, but you still were able to get what you needed from me.
Right. Exactly. And everybody's okay. So I think that that's where, as females and then especially Black females, there's things that we take on our shoulders, and lots of people like to call us Wonder Woman and Superwoman and unicorns and all the things. And while that is flattering, sometimes we're just like, I didn't ask for this. This is just how I operate on a daily basis. It's how I know how to get through things. I don't know anything else. Like, I don't know, like, what's the alternative of not doing this, right? And so when you put it back to people that way, sometimes they're just like, and then other times they're like, well, I guess, like, yes, it's nice to be told that you wear the Wonder Woman cape, but I'm like, I am not. I disappoint people. I know I do. And I don't, it happens. And I don't necessarily apologize. And it's not because I just know that people don't like to hear sorry. What I do is I just come back with just showing up and just being there and show my intentions. And I get a lot of grace. So I do appreciate that from a lot of friends who gave me a lot of grace because they know how busy I am. They understand what it is to be who I am as an entrepreneur, and they themselves are entrepreneurs too. So they, a lot of times I don't have any, issues with my entrepreneur friends, but
because they
other
know how
friends,
this thing works.
they know how it works. But a lot, they say it's lonely at the top for a reason. It doesn't have to be. I think it's just that it requires us to unlock and share these true stories and talk about it for real.
That's
so
right.
People understand what it really is that they're getting themselves into.
That's right. And that's why I like to have my show, and I like to really give a platform to entrepreneurs like yourself, because we see these TikToks and we think this shit happens. And guess what?
Right.
It just doesn't happen like that. I see where individuals will go, let me show you how to make $1 million in 5 hours. And I'm like, right. But what they didn't say is, I'm making $1 million by getting you to follow this, because, it's just some stuff that's not genuine. And like you said, showing up and being genuine, but also letting people understand that you can be vulnerable and you don't have to be lonely at the top. You have to make people in your circle understand. And first of all, let's not have people in your circle that don't understand. Let's start there.
Right. Let's start there. Like, if they don't get it, it's okay to let them go. Release them. It's okay. It's okay.
That's
No,
right.
like it's okay. It's like it's okay.
Right.
And I
There's a time and a place for you. Everything is in a season. Your season is expired. I get it. Thank you so much for being with me for this time, and move on to the next time. And it's
Yes.
very hard for us to do that, even in work. When you know the person is incorrect for the position, please do not keep them
Just
in the position.
let them
Because we have
go.
to have the right people in the right position in order for our business to be successful. And a lot of times we get caught up in the relationship and not in the real interest of the business. Because at the end of the day, if you were caught up in the real interest of the business, that person wouldn't even be a conversation if the right person wasn't in the right job. You find them the right fit, or you have
Mhm.
to move them from the position, you know. So
Right.
it's those things that we don't talk about as small business owners and as entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
or even as those that are just, you know, that are looking to do something different in the world. We don't like to be the one to take someone out of position, even if we know it's not working. And I say this to entrepreneurs because I just had a conversation about it, right? And so
Mhm.
I was very surprised to know it was the journey of more than one person, and this person really kind of halted what they were able to do until they were able to get them in the right position, to get the right person
Yeah.
in the right position. And so I encourage those that are listening today, please
Yeah.
be encouraged by this.
That's a lot of what I do with turnaround work. It's not just riffing people. It's not just laying them off. It's
No,
actually going in because I knew what it felt like and finding out what makes you tick. What do you like
right,
doing?
right,
What are the things? Like you might be right for this role, but people don't know that you are because you're not like it's not showing up in your work,
right,
right? And so how can we make that show up for your work? I always start there because I'm like, you're in this role for a reason. Let's figure it out. I
right.
also like to look at the low performers based on, metrics, because if I can go to them and find out why they're getting rated low to see if there's some unfairness in there, right? Just understand like what's going on. A lot of times that's where you find a lot of your diamonds in the rough. And so I like to just really start there because I want to, I was known to work with the most difficult stakeholders, the most difficult people would be like, "I'm not talking to Sally." Like, no, I don't it's not really a Sally. I just wanna make sure I don't wanna get anybody upset. But,
Yeah,
I'm not they'd be like, "I'm not talking will you go talk to her?" And it would always be like, "Give it to Denise because she's gonna be the one to influence and get us through this hurdle and get
that's
the
right.
yes that we need." Right? And it wasn't because I ingenuinely spoke to Sally about what was going on. It was because I was like, "Hey, I genuinely wanna know, like, what it is that makes you tick. What do you like? What do you like doing? Oh, you have a
Right.
daughter? Oh, I have a daughter too. Oh, you have, like, this. Oh, you have horses. Oh, whatever, just to
Right.
start to create that connection, and I think that, we grew up with a generation of parents who there was no empathy in the C-suite. There's no you better get it done, and they were used to, like, being yelled at or whatever that behavior was, right?
Was, they
We
got it
considered
done.
to be
So
negative.
this is really interesting. I want to
Yeah.
pause again because you got a great nugget here too. So I teach human resource management. I teach at McGregor College. I teach human resource management. I teach policy, right? But one of the
That's
things that I
amazing.
do in my organizational management class is I have my students read two books: How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Getting to Yes. And so, even though you may or may not have read the book, you're doing exactly what the book is talking about. Like the getting to yes, okay, that's fine, right? So, we have this whole scenario where there's an orange. And I ask my students, well, there's only one orange left. And both of you want the orange. What are we doing with the orange? And the students are like, we're going to split it in half. Like, well, you get half, I get half. I was like, no, that's not the answer. They're like, what? I'm not going to split it in half. I was like, I don't want the orange. I just need to peel to make my lemon pie.
Right.
You want the juice, you can have the orange. They're like, oh wait, we can both have the
Right.
whole thing. We can both have what we want. Yeah, that's how we get
Yes.
to yes. Like if we
Yes.
have to assess the situation, we can get to yes, right? And then how to win friends and influence people. We're looking at the whole person. I gave them my
Mhm.
example in the DA's office when I had someone in the office and they weren't the best performer. And everybody had something to say about what they didn't do. And I would just concentrate on what they did.
Mhm.
Everything that they did. Oh my God, you always show up on time. I can always
Mhm.
count on you to show up on time. You always here on time, right? So we
Mhm.
went from that little thing to now getting things done in my office that was supposed to be done by this person.
Mhm.
To eventually them letting me know what the C-suite was saying. I got my promotion because they act like she was a fly on the wall because they didn't pay
Mhm.
attention to that
Right.
person because
And
they didn't.
that's what exactly. And so
So
when you can figure out how to work together with people,
mhm,
like I don't know if you know who Jade Simmons is, but she came to our recent entrepreneurial excellence program forum, which is what Women's Presidents Organization that's here. It's worldwide, so everybody can come. I
Yeah,
think we have
I
lots
actually
of
had an
ideas.
opportunity to speak at one in Washington, D.C.
Yay! Awesome. Well, I'm a chapter chair. I have a chapter here in Atlanta, and I just they brought in Jade Simmons, and she closed it out with a lyrical mix, and you're just gonna have to check her out.
Okay.
But it was just what she showed was you could take folks wherever they meet them where they are
That's right. That's
and
what
get
I was
them to do not
whatever
get them,
they
but
need
like
to
get
do.
everybody to come into harmony to get everything done so that
That's right.
everything is singing.
That's right.
You can meet people where they are.
That's
And
right.
I
And you
think that
have to
that's
meet.
yeah, you
That's
have to.
but that's the trick. You have to meet them where they are. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like this person, when you found out later on, they were being pushed around so much and not being recognized. So she's like, well, why am I doing it? Why am
Mhm.
I doing everything that I need to do? And you don't even see me here. Like,
Right.
see me here. And I
Right.
saw her and I made sure that my students see. Right. And so that's why you're like glossing over these nuggets, but these are so invaluable.
I'm not trying to gloss over them. I just don't realize I don't know. Listen.
It's like
I
I'm
know
just,
what I know
I'm
from
just
my
winning.
experience. Yes.
I'm just winning out here. I'm just
Yes.
winning.
I
Through
think,
my testimony, you can tell I know what I'm doing, but I'm winning.
yes.
I'm winning. And so that's
Yes.
really, really important. I think that one of the things that, oh my gosh, we're almost out of time. How is that possible?
Wow. Wow. When you told me an hour, I was like, really?
Wait a minute. It's 2 minutes and we're almost
Yeah.
done. So I want to let you close it then because I just was going to get back into a few more of the nuggets, but I'm telling you, this was so powerful. And I appreciate, Denise, for you coming on, for you sharing, for you just telling your story, because I am confident that individuals that are listening today are going to be able to take down their pen and paper, get a couple of nuggets from here, and take their business to the next level just based on the testimony that you gave today. And I truly, truly appreciate it. So what do you want to leave with our listening audience?
I want to leave with stay curious, believe in yourself, don't doubt yourself. All the things that you hear people say to you, like really turn back and listen to it. Go back and look at whatever type of reviews that you've ever received on yourself, any type of feedback. Really take it in, evaluate it, and just stop for a moment to think like, wow, like actually that person has some was onto something, and maybe I need to just stop taking myself so seriously and really understand who I am. So that's
Oh
what
my
I
gosh,
have to
that is
leave with people.
amazing. That's super amazing. And so I just want to thank you again for taking the time to be on the
Thank
show
you,
today.
Terry.
I'm sure we're going to have a follow up. We may even have a panel discussion around this because what is needed right now is what you shared today, because people are looking at this thing called business and this thing called life and just trying to trek it through. And what you were able to share today is able to take them to a next level. And so I thank you for coming in, talking about various best practices, big ideas, gave some solutions to how you can pivot in these times. And I look forward to having you back on the show again. Thank you so much for being a
Thanks,
part of the
Terry.
Coaxum
Appreciate
Report.
it. Thank
Take
you.
care. All right.
Bye now.
Bye.